Good afternoon. I'm going to speak in English, so I hope you understand me. And I'm Marina Venturi. I'm a PhD student from the Department of Agricultural, Food, Environment and Forestry of the University of Florence. And this afternoon I'm going to talk about the traditional agricultural systems and their importance in our tradition and in our countries, and the importance of the landscape identity. Why I have focused this speech about the traditional agricultural systems, because we know that the new technology introduced in the last centuries in agricultural systems have created an inefficient model. So it's not sustainable and it's difficult to manage the landscape with these new machineries. It is inefficient also because it causes in countries such as Italy, but also in Spain in some cases, some phenomena that are listed in this slide, such as abandonment. In fact, a lot of rural areas cannot be cultivated through the use of new technologies because they, for example, are set on high slope or in mountainous surfaces. So it's very difficult to use this kind of machineries. For that reason, in the second half of the last centuries, a lot of rural population moved from the countryside to the urban areas. That abandonment caused not only the reforestation process, but also the urban sprawl all over Italy, but even in other European countries. These changes are strictly related also to another phenomenon, that is the homogenization of our landscape structure. In fact, the traditional landscape is constituted by a complexity of the mosaic of the landscape, which after the abandonment of rural areas simplified itself. So if before we had some patches constituted by agricultural land uses, and the combination between these agricultural patches with wooded areas, little villages, and so on. After the abandonment, we had a recolonization of the forest, so it caused a homogenization of our landscape. This at the same time caused also a degradation of some rural areas and the loss of a huge amount of cultural values and of traditions of our country. So why traditional agricultural systems are important? First of all, because they are the result of man and nature coexistence. Man, during the centuries, has shaped the territory around him, and it has used the peculiarity of the landscape in order to survive, for its survival, but in a complete respect of the territory. At the same time, they are, of course, model for sustainable management. So they could be used as ways for the climate change mitigation. In most of them, we don't use machineries or chemical product, but only traditional systems. So, for example, we have the harvesting of olive trees or vineyards only by the man-force without the use of machineries. And also they are alternative to increase the competitiveness of the rural areas. In fact, they could be considered as tourist attractor for the quality of the products that are characterizing these sites. The main impediment is, of course, the high cost related to the maintenance and the protection of these sites. In fact, most of these sites are set on extreme territory structures, such as high slope or terraced surfaces that are very difficult to manage. In some cases, we are very far also from the main roads, so it's also difficult to reach these places. And all over the world, we know that there are some sites that are set in situation characterized by poverty or lack of employment. So the maintenance and the protection of these sites is strictly related to a high cost that not always is easy to maintain. So I want to talk about the GIS program. That is a program, the GIS is a program promoted by FAO, and was founded in 2002, and it has the aim to identify, protect, manage, and promote these sites, these traditional sites. The aim of this program is not only to identify these traditional agricultural systems, but also to spread the awareness of the existence of this site in order to make all the population, all the world population know that there are valid alternative to the new technology system, the industrialized systems that could be used also for economic promotion. This program is founded on 5 criteria that are listed in this slide. On the right, we have the process to the inscription of these sites. And the inscription is constituted by the draft of a document by the authorities that are in charge of the proposal. And the document that has to be drafted has to answer to all these 5 criteria. So each site has to answer to these criteria, so it has to be characterized by a high agrobiodiversity, for example, or it has to be an important landscape and seascape feature also. After that, after the creation of this document, that has to be related to an action plan, which is a document composed by all the action that the local population wants to carry on to maintain and to promote this reality. Then this document has to be analyzed by the scientific advisory group of FAO that decide if the sites could be inscribed or not in the program. Today, there are 57 sites inscribed and 6 that are proposed. Most of them are in Asia, especially in China and in Japan, but all the sites is spreading all over the world. There are 2 GSIs even here in Spain, 3 GSIs even here in Spain. One is near Bilbao and is in Añana for salt production. One is near Valencia for the oliviculture, and then another is in Malaga for raising production. I would like to make an Italian example, and is the olive grove of the slope between Assisi and Spoleto, which are 2 towns in the middle of Italy. And it's a site very important for the oliviculture. There are about 4,500 hectares of olive groves. And the importance of the agricultural sector is also related to the presence on the municipality in the boundaries of the inscribed area of 6,000 of farms. Of course, as you of course know, the oliviculture is very important in Italian history, of course even in Spain. But the proposed area is one of the most important in Italy for the olive growing, and it dates back to the Etruscan period. In the nominated area, the oil production is guaranteed by the presence of a label, that is the DOP, the protected designation of origin, that ensure that the oil is produced only according to the strict genetic variety control. And what we have noticed in this size is the fact that these traditional agricultural technique adopted that are characterized mostly by the presence of terraces or another kind of dry stone wall that are columnated that you will see after in other slide. This kind of landscape structure contributes to a high agrobiodiversity. So the presence of this dry stone wall, for example, increased the number of fauna and flora species. And so this, the presence of a high number of land uses, different land uses, contribute to the maintenance of a high number of agrobiodiversity, a high percentage of agrobiodiversity. That is very important, and it's higher percentage than the one that we have in industrialized systems, of course. The importance of agriculture is also testified by the fact that abandonment is lower than in other part of Italy, and is important also for the slow tourism. In fact, there are more than 130 farmhouses. These are the traditional systems that I speak you about. The ones in the right side are the lunette, that are these dry stone walls that are semicircular shape, and they're protected only one olive tree and are very characteristic of this area. The landscape is really beautiful. It's constituted by a highly fragmented mosaic, and is constituted by the presence of little villages, olive groves, but also other kind of cultivated surfaces like vineyards or orchards and so on. So it's a unique combination of little towns and agricultural settlements, and this kind of landscape structure dates back from the Roman times. But the structure that it has even today is dates back from the period that goes from the end of the 17th and the beginning of the 18th centuries, when the market value of the oil was very high and the importance of the olive oil was really fundamental for this area. And also the structure of the landscape is related to the action of the Papal States that planted a lot of olive trees in this area. In fact, here the action of the monastery of the monks, it was fundamental, and is fundamental even today, because here is the homeland of St. Francis of Assisi, which is one of the most important saints in Italy. These are some product and some promotional activities in this area. So, of course, the oil is used for the local cuisine, but also for the production of medicine and cosmetics. And thanks to the inscription in the GS program, there are these promotional activities carry on, like the creation of this museum of the olivicultural activities, and also the restoration of some pathways that nowadays constitute the oil pathway. There are other cultural promotion events of the area, of other products like wine or saffron or onion and stuff like that. And this is an important restoration action carried out in the last year, the restoration of the St. Francis Wood with the recreation of the pathways and of all the agricultural part of the area. So is a kind of a preservation action for the maintenance of our identity in these places. So, to conclude, we could say that this kind of agricultural system could constitute a new vision for the future of our planet. In fact, as I have already said, they are historical and traditional, so they are our culture, our heritage, our tradition, but they also are some alternatives to industrialized systems, have peculiarity that are different in each country. So each country has beautiful landscape that are the combination of the main activities thanks to the characteristic of the feature of the landscape and of the territory. So they are also useful for climate mitigation and for the protection of of biodiversity. And of course, they can protect also our rural areas from the abandonment and our heritage. So with that, I really thank you for the attention. And